It's an important conversation, but it's definitely a sober one. It's been 345 days since we lost Amillier Penn, and it's quite a while for his family to patiently wait for some answers. And actually, I want to introduce Detective Leonard. Do you mind coming up here with me? So Tony Leonard on the either side. Tony Leonard is the lead detective on this case, and I know Tony's had a career probably about as long as I have, and we've both been through some difficult things. And the term that gets thrown around a lot in our profession, vicarious trauma, and this is one of the cases that we both became very emotionally invested in. And one of the things that's frustrating for people dealing with the loss of someone they love in these circumstances is they're looking for answers. And one of the great things about our job is when we're faced with a situation like this, we can put our heart and soul and energy and effort into something for days, for weeks, or in the case of this incident, which is almost a year old, months of work by Detective Leonard. We know we can't bring Millie back, but we can get answers for the family. We can get some healing for the family. And Millie's parents, Corey and Claudia, have been extremely patient through this process. They love their son very much, and we hope that helps with them. But we're announcing today the charges have been brought on 17-year-old Cartiyae Pascal. He will be facing open murder charges in this case. The detectives, like I said, it's been almost a year. Tony and the detectives helping him out have done fantastic. I really think the message is getting out in our community, not only that you are going to be held accountable if you commit a violent crime in the city of Grand Rapids, but also what we've seen here is more and more the adults in our community, the mothers and fathers and the mother figures and father figures are rejecting this culture of embracing violence, rejecting this culture of when a child is murdered on the street, not sharing with the police the information, because you're embracing this bizarre culture of being okay with violence. And some of the loudest voices, some of the keyboard warriors, some of people with very big opinions, they want to focus, a lot of times they want to focus on police issues. But the reality is that we had a 16-year-old kill a 15-year-old in this case, and it was mostly crickets. I'll say we just came from several weeks of the trial of former Officer Schur, and Commissioner Robert Womack was out there quite a bit. He's been with the family quite a bit. He actually introduced me to Peter Luoya the day after Patrick was killed. And I'll say in this case, Commissioner Womack has been not only an advocate for the Luoya family, but he has been steadfast in demanding justice for Millie, demanding answers from the many individuals who witnessed this murder, and were not doing the right thing. So the police department was doing the right thing, and for 345 days has been doing the right thing and pushing forward to get these answers. And fortunate today to be announcing these charges. But again, it's a sober day for us, and I appreciate you guys coming in, and I'm sure you have some questions, and I look forward to hearing them and answering them.
Obviously, in the show, we saw that this person was kind of held in prison or for some other.
You're talking about the documentary series?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
How did we get to this point from the docuseries?
Well, interesting thing when the series, the series was filmed for 100 days in the summer, so it covered this period of time. This murder happened on June 2nd, and the documentary crew left in the beginning of September. So there was a significant, about 6 months of time there that Tony was working on this case. And I'd say he probably had 95% of it done or so. But this individual, Cartiyae Pascal, has been in custody on an unrelated shooting for the entire time. So that urgency for us to incapacitate this individual because of the propensity for violence was not there, because he was already incapacitated. So we were able to then really take our time, cross all the T's, dot all the I's. And but most of the work was done before the show happened. Having said that, after the show aired, there was a significant amount of interest, again, from the community. We got a lot of tips on Silent Observer and other people contacting us, some information that was very helpful.
So there any information that helps?
Or just follow up. I know you have a follow up. Yeah.
Would the show help you get to these charges?
Yes.
Can you explain why?
I think it revitalized the interest in Millie. Millie's dad has been steadfast online, advocating for his son and advocating for witnesses to come forward. I think it was very helpful for people to realize that the primary suspect was incarcerated. It did not pose a threat to anyone else. That's always a genuine concern of people coming forward, is the threat of reprisal. Knowing that he was jailed and seeing that justice had not yet been fulfilled, I think that was very helpful.
Where and when was the other shooting that you referenced?
I want to say, what was that, August?
9/1.
It was September 1st, and it was at Madison and Dickinson at the party store.
What new information has come to light?
That we're not going to reveal.
In the show, we saw that there was a possible fight club involved between Amillier and possibly Cartiyae. What was that like to kind of navigate? Was there anything that kind of made things more difficult with that backstory there?
I'll tell you, so what we had here, and when this murder, when we lost Millie, who was 15, and Cartiyae was 16, so we're talking about kids. We're talking about teenage boys doing teenage boy things. I have a teenage boy. I do not advocate him sparring with people out on the street. He actually belongs to a boxing gym. I think that's a much healthier way to get that teenage stuff out. But this is just kid stuff doing kid stuff. So we're certainly not painting Millie as any sort of bad kid, and certainly not indicating anything that took place in his life previously that would be any sort of justification for violence to rise to this level.
What were the main sticking points? I know you've talked a lot about the community not wanting to speak up. What were some of the other?
Yeah, that's the biggest.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest one was that. I mean, the obstacle, and I'll let Tony if he wants to add in. But you got a huge crime scene. You have a little bit of gap of surveillance there, so there's a lot of places, especially in downtown, where we're just going to catch the incident on video. We lost another 15-year-old that same summer, Lakeisha Williams, and that incident was actually captured on video because there's a lot of surveillance. This one, there was not video of the actual incident. We knew that there was running involved. We knew that there were numerous people, so huge crime scene, which is a very large area to canvas. And then we know that there's a lot of young people that are living in a culture that refuses to cooperate with the police, or at the time at least was refusing to cooperate with the police. And maybe more alarming, what we weren't getting was support from the adults in these kids' lives to say, this is not the time. When a 15-year-old boy is murdered, that is not the time to say, I'm going to hold a code of the street. I'm not going to be a snitch. I'm not going to talk. That is the time to say, we're all in this world together. We're all humans. We need to act like we care about each other and love each other. And as a parent, you have to realize that it might not be your 15-year-old kid that was shot and killed today, but your 15-year-old kid, if you have one, is living in a world where that could happen, and you've got, a dozen other kids who are going to go back to their house and say, well, I'm not saying anything. Like, I don't want my kids to live in that world. And these kids, I live in the northeast side of Grand Rapids. I've said this many times. You have a statistical chance 48 times more likely to get shot down in the neighborhood where Millie was shot than on the northeast side where my kids play. Why should my kids be any safer than kids down playing football, which is what Millie's doing? Obviously, the answer is they should. They should all be safe, and part of that is the adults in these kids' lives need to step up and realize you cannot embrace a culture of no snitching, whatever you want to call it. There is no moral justification for it whatsoever.
Have you developed a motive yet?
Motive is going to be, have we developed a motive that is going to make any rational sense to any adult? Absolutely not. No. But is it going to come out? I'm sure it will. And it's typical teenage boy stuff that if you and I were teenagers and we had a beef, maybe it would be settled in a fist fight or something. But in this case, it took a very tragic turn, and it did not have to be that way.
Silent Observer, did that play a role in any of this?
You want to talk to that?
Silent Observer was very helpful. We received a number of tips. The more viable ones were fully vetted, and we still want information. And to follow up on your question, it's not just people not reluctant to, or that are reluctant to come forward. But we interviewed hundreds of people. Several of them said flat out, there were hundreds of people out there, why should I get involved? And they just take an apathetic approach to it, kind of putting the onus on others to step forward with information. So as we stand here right now, Detective Zabriskie and I, or any other detective, if there are people out there that are now willing to come forward, now that there are charges, we will happily interview them. I would love to hear it if you've got footage, if you've heard something, if you've got screenshots. If you saw it, please don't be hesitant to come forward.
How does it feel now? Because obviously you've been working this case for almost a year. How does it feel now?
It's a sense of relief, but you know, Millie's gone, and we've got another teenager his life is impacted by this as well.
Are there any specific elements aside from the community standpoint that helped tip this over the edge to make charges? I know this obviously took a really long time. Any other elements you can add?
The people that were willing to come forward and tell the truth, yes.
Were they kids or were they adults?
They were adults.
Was there any correlation between the September shooting and Amillier shooting?
We know that the groups were loosely affiliated, but I don't think there's a direct correlation.
Court documents had shown that Cartiyae Pascal had admitted to multiple people that he had done this. Did that at all play into this? Did those people end up coming forward?
So we would rather that come out in court.
You referenced Leoya. I know it's off subject and maybe not appropriate. But
If I can't answer it, I'll tell you why I can't answer it, but you can ask me whatever you want while we're out here.
Prosecution, whether they're going to pursue another trial in the Leoya case.
I have not, no.
Obviously, we're starting to get to the longer month. Anything you want to say to the community?
We're headed in the right direction. As you all probably know, we lost 2 souls this year, both from to domestic-related violence, a 12-year-old and an adult woman in a violent domestic relationship, but we haven't had an individual that was killed by gunfire yet this year, and I would love to go through the entire year of 2025 with that. Last year, like this was almost a year ago for last year, and then we lost Lakaija. The message has been consistent, and that is the adults in this city, the mothers and fathers and mother figures and father figures need to stand up, be adults, take an interest in their kids' lives. If you have the capacity to be a mentor to other young people in this community, do so. But our young people, they need help, they need mentorship, they need to know that this lifestyle of violence is just going to lead to one thing or another, and you see it in this case, incarceration or serious injury or death. So that's the message.
Has the show helped in any other cases?
I know we've gotten a lot of information, but if I recall, all of the other cases are. I believe that the cases so far that have gone through have been closed by arrest. There's one case, actually, the case that Tony worked on, which is still open and under investigation, and I don't know if you have anything.
We've actually just had a witness come forward last week.
The secondary one?
Yep, and they have yet to be interviewed.
Any other elements of evidence you can talk about that bring light? Did he ever admit to this to you all? I know the documentary brought up phone evidence, things like that. Any other details you could share?
I'll leave it up to you, Tony, if there's anything else you want to share.
I'd rather not share it right now.
Okay, but it will obviously all come out in the court process. Brad, I know you got something else. What else you got? No.
Have you talked to family members?
Yes.
What was that reaction? What was that like?
Legally, we need to notify Carti's parents. I also notified his lawyer because he's retained counsel on the other case. And then I called and had a conversation with Corey and Claudia. Not an easy conversation to have, but a very good one. One that they waited a very long time for that phone call. And it was a blessing that I got to be able to do it.
Is it normal for cases like this to take as long? I mean, I know you had that challenge of the community. Was that basically the reason it had kind of
I would say if people came forward the first day, this case would have been wrapped up, obviously, in a week or two at the most. I've been involved in murder cases which have taken 20 years to go through, but this one didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be 345 days. If every adult, at least in the city, did what was the morally responsible thing, this case would have been wrapped up a lot sooner. And it just comes down to that people need to, we talk a lot about holding the police to high standards. I'm all about that. Accountability for the police department, reform to the police department. One thing I've seen is reform in the community, holding the community accountable. And we need to see more of that. And we saw that as this case went on, more and more people willing to cooperate, but it didn't have to be 345 days. It should have been earlier. Everyone in the city should have been acting like an adult because this was a 15-year-old boy who got murdered.
Is there a bond on this?
No bond.
No bond.
No, not at this time.
He's been charged, or he was in court already.
He was arraigned.
This morning.
Yeah, he was arraigned
He's
this
already in
morning.
jail.
Right, yep, in jail and will remain in jail without bond. Yeah.
Okay, we all set?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.